North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Alison Riggs, who's already on the court by appointment, is fighting for her judicial life against the Republican Party in North Carolina. And now we have the Republican-controlled Supreme Court of North Carolina, of which Alison Riggs is currently a member, fighting it out in public. It's spilled out into the open with the democratically controlled state election board over certifying the election results from November, which has, after hand count and recount and re-recount, has Alison Riggs winning that seat by election by 734 votes of 5.5 million cast. So what's the problem? The problem is the opponent, who's also a judge, who's apparently dying to be on the Supreme Court, her opponent, Jefferson Griffin, is trying to throw away into the trash can 60,000 North Carolinian votes, claiming that they didn't have a social security number or they didn't have a driver's license, when many of the voter registration laws at the time when they voted didn't require any of that. Just rip up overseas ballots from North Carolinians. Just get rid of people who voted in good faith in November. Throw it in the trash and give this guy the election. That's not how democracy works. That's not how the United States work. And we're here to support Alison Riggs on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. Let me break it down for you, because we got a new decision out of the North Carolina Supreme Court, 4-2, with one Republican in dissent. And I think those dissents are powerful here as to why the Supreme Court of North Carolina should not be looking to disenfranchise 60,000 North Carolinians and just toss their votes duly cast into a garbage can and turn the vote over to Jefferson Griffin. He should be ashamed of himself, to be trying to disenfranchise his fellow citizens and residents of North Carolina in order to win a all-important Supreme Court seat. I mean, Alison Riggs needs to be on that court. You know, the reason it was a 4-2 vote is because she's on the Supreme Court, and of course she didn't want to deal with her own issues, so she recused herself. If she had voted, I'm sure it would have been 4-3. You see how slim the margins are in North Carolina. It's important that she win that seat and that it be confirmed. And the state election board already looked over all of the paperwork, all of the data, all of the hand count, all of the machine count, and time and time again, she increased her lead to 734. You only need to win by one. I know that 5.5 million ballots were cast, but you only got to win by one, and she won by 733, more than that. And so they're just about to certify. Now, the Democratic Party did a preemptive strike, and they ran into federal court. Unfortunately, they drew a Trump-appointed judge in the federal court that covers this area in North Carolina, and he rejected the attempt to have the election certified and have her declared the winner. Not because they found on the merits that Griffin was right. They just felt that it had to go back to the Supreme Court of North Carolina, into the state court system, and get it out of the federal court system. Now, there is appeal to the Fourth Circuit that sits over North Carolina and Virginia and some other states, but that appeal is not going to take place before the North Carolina Supreme Court has made its ruling. They've said now in their ruling they want to take a look at this 60,000 ballot issue, months after the election. And they find it interesting, I guess, is the way to put it. And they set up a briefing schedule on an expedited basis to have everything briefed and argued by the 24th of January. So in the meantime, Alison Riggs remains on the North Carolina Supreme Court, where she had been appointed, and we'll have to wait to whether the North Carolina Supreme Court and its Republican majority tries to screw one of their own. And let me just read to you from some of the pages of the actual decision here. Let me read to you from the two dissents, because they're the most interesting. Justice Earls, who is a Democrat, wrote that she dissents on the grounds that the standard for temporary stay has not been met here, where there is no likelihood of success on the merits, and the public interest requires that the court not interfere with the ordinary course of democratic processes as set by the statute and of the state constitution. She's protecting voter rights, the rights of voters. Petitioner Judge Jefferson Griffin, he's a judge but not a justice of the Supreme Court, his motion for temporary stay is procedurally improper, as he's failed to follow the lawful process for appealing a final decision on election protest. Moreover, even if the filing were procedurally proper, his motion for a temporary stay would be denied because he has failed to meet the standard for granting a preliminary relief. Simply put, the laws and the Constitution of this state provide for the proper execution of the will of the voters following an election with the issuance of a certificate of election duly following the procedure set by law. Free and fair elections demand nothing less, and there is a substantial public interest served by following this rule of law, and this court should not intervene. There's a Republican that actually is in dissent as well. Let me read to you from his dissent, just to show you how heated this battle is over this seat. You know the Republicans want the seat. They don't want it to be 4-3. They want it to be, 5-2 in their favor. So this is what Justice Dissents, who's the Republican on there who dissented, and he said, I would deny the petition and dismiss the stay and not have the Supreme Court wade into this issue about the 60,000 votes under the Purcell principle. Purcell is a United States constitutional principle, U.S. constitutional principle from 2006, which recognizes that as elections draw near, judicial intervention becomes inappropriate because it can damage the integrity of the election process. In other words, we are too close to the one side or the other of the election process to interfere with it and disenfranchise people under the Purcell principle. Now, to be fair, Justice Dietz says, I believe some of these legal challenges that Griffin is raising likely have merit. This case, understandably, has drawn a tremendous amount of public attention. Nearly all of the press coverage and public discourse seems focused on Judge Griffin's challenges to the votes of around 60,000 people whose voter registration information lacked complete driver's license or Social Security information. But Dietz goes on to say, there are many good reasons why those might be missing, and certainly the state election board is in a better position to evaluate it than the court would be after the fact so soon after the election. And so this shows you how close the vote is. Free Alison Riggs. It's time for her to be confirmed by the North Carolina Supreme Court. I don't think the feds are going to be able to intervene here because the Fourth Circuit, unless there's a new filing that tries to get them to expedite the federal appeal level, they're going to leave this to the North Carolina Supreme Court. And then if she somehow gets bounced and those 60,000 get disenfranchised, wait for the Democratic Party and Justice Riggs to move for expedited relief at the United States Supreme Court level about it. Let's hope that 60,000 North Carolinians aren't disenfranchised in order that Judge Griffin can become a North Carolina Supreme Court justice. We can only hope that's the case. We'll continue to follow it. See, this was the important aftermath of the election. I know we were busy, of course, being upset and licking our wounds about what happened with Kamala Harris, the Democratic Party, and Donald Trump's reelection. But down ballot, there were a lot of important issues that were up for grabs. Women's rights being restored, women being restored to first-class citizenship in various states because abortion was on the ballot and went in their favor and in the favor of democracy. That was a good thing. And judicial races like this one, which we're only now coming around to follow, also very, very important in North Carolina. So I'm Michael Popok. You're on MeidasTouch Network. Legal AF is what I hosted and co-founded Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on the MeidasTouch Network, and a brand new Legal AF YouTube channel in collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network called Legal AF MTN. And we're trying to get to 500,000 by our half birthday in about a month or two. We're almost at 400,000 right now. We could really use your help to get there. Extraordinary support by the Meidas Mighty and the Legal AFers. And I got a new show, Popok Live. It's on Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, also on the MeidasTouch Network. I take questions. I give answers. I don't take prisoners. I don't blow smoke or sunshine. Popok Live, Tuesday nights on the MeidasTouch Network. So until my next reporting, this is Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.